as for the overall getting 50,000 words in a month goal, I have a lot to say. Okay. Hi, it's Wallace, and it has been a minute. My last video was over a week ago, and I'm pretty sure it was some of the most dramatic stuff I've ever posted. I think my thumbnail, I had my face in my hands and the caption said something like, "Am I burnt out?" or "Is this burnout?" Yes, it was. But more on that later. I wanted to get back into the swing of making Authortube videos by just going over my overall thoughts on NaNoWriMo, especially as a first-time nanower? What would the word be? Rhino? I think it's Rhino, but I'm not sure. Of course, everybody's experiences are different, so I just want to clarify, this isn't an advice list. I'm just here to kind of tell the story of my experience of what worked for me and what didn't work for me. I am a self-proclaimed pantser who attempted to plan during October for Nano while also participating in classes for my master's program and also dealing with a house that got hit by a tornado 11 days before November started. So unless you happen to find yourself matching that very specific description, take everything I say with a grain of salt. Things that worked for me may not work for you, and things that didn't work out for me might work perfectly for you. Just the basics in case you were curious. My final word count for the month was just over 52,600 words. First things first, something that worked: participating in Preptober. It amped up my excitement. I made a playlist for my story. I made a Pinterest for my story, both of which kept me inspired. And Preptober also allowed me to come up with an outline, which even as a pantser, I recognized was crucial to keep up my momentum to hit 50K. Something that didn't work was in Preptober, I only allotted myself 1 week for research. The story I'm working on right now covers topics I'm not super familiar with. In Preptober, I took a week to familiarize myself with some of these topics, but a week was in no way long enough, and I did feel underprepared while writing certain scenes, while writing a lot of scenes. So that will definitely be something I take into account if I attempt to do Nano again. Something that worked was writing marathons. I found the days I was most immersed in the story and obviously most productive were the days I set aside either entirely for writing or I blocked out huge chunks of time for writing. On the flip side of that, something that didn't work for me was writing sprints and participating in writing live streams. Now, I do want to clarify here, I loved participating in the live streams, but I used them almost more as a social hour to see how everybody else was doing and chat about issues we were having with our stories or chat about Hogwarts houses. I mean, things got really off topic a lot, but it was so fun and it boosted the camaraderie and definitely inspired me. But the way my brain works, I don't really do well with the dive in, climb back out, dive back in of writing sprints. I'm much more of a marathoner in that I like to sit down and fully immerse myself in the waters of the story for hours and hours and hours, and I don't really start to pick up speed until about an hour into writing. However, I will say that I do find writing sprints helpful for when I'm editing. I think in that mindset, the kind of quick look in, quick look out, quick look in is helpful in keeping my thoughts fresh, but when writing brand new, from scratch work, definitely marathoning is the way for me to go. Another thing that worked were my Nano letters. I loved opening these little pep talks I wrote to myself before Nano began, and they are 100% something I am going to do in future events like this. Something from my survival kit that didn't work was my Productive Procrastination Cup. Basically what this is it has little slips of paper inside of it that just gave recommendations for things to do if I felt myself getting stuck in the story. Puppy time! That were hopefully there to distract me, but also reinvigorate me and get me back into the mood to write, which is why I considered it to be productive procrastination. I feel a little bad including this in the bad category because it's not really its fault. It's just I never thought to reach for it, which is why I'm including it in the didn't work category, but I'm not totally off of this idea yet. Something that really, really worked was my beautiful calendar that I made and that sat on my desk for all of NaNoWriMo. Loved looking at this every day. I loved crossing off my days. I loved crossing off my word count goals and seeing how far ahead I was compared to what the actual nano goal of the day was. And of course, the rewards on this side were so motivational. Something that didn't work, and I kind of want to say, instead of saying it didn't work, I want to say it didn't work out, and that was making daily Authortube videos. For the first 3 weeks when I was making the videos, they were so helpful. They really were. Yes, they added a level of stress, but when I kind of came to the realization that I didn't have to make a big production of them, they could really just be quick little updates, 30 minutes of editing and upload. They were super helpful for accountability reasons, for interaction in the community reasons. The reason why I feel like I have to put it in the didn't work out category is because once I did hit 50,000 words, I stopped making videos basically. I don't think I burnt out because of the videos. I really don't. I think I burnt out because of writing. And again, I'll discuss this in a minute, but ultimately got to a point where a few days had passed and I had not uploaded a video and I just really felt like there wasn't much to film. And I didn't want to film my burnout because I didn't want to be a bummer for everybody watching in the final stretch of NaNoWriMo, and I didn't want to bring anybody down. So I just held off. Another thing that really worked for me was doing a 10K day early in the month. Here's the thing. I had never on purpose attempted a 10K day before, and it seemed really daunting to me, but I am so glad that I did it because I think that momentum right at the start, plus the fact that I was doing daily Authortube videos, really is the reason I hit 50K and the reason I hit 50K early. 10,000 words is almost 6 days worth of nano writing goals. The way I look at it, it's like I took the stress of trying to hit 1667 every single day for 6 days and I just put it all into one day. So there was one day that was hard, but then the next 6 days were totally manageable because I was so ahead. I could write 1,000 words one day and I could be proud of that, and I wouldn't be upset that I didn't get that extra 667 because I'm ahead. And then because I'd be in a good mood, maybe the next day I would write 3,000 words, and so I've made up for, you know, the words I didn't write the day before. So it was a situation that worked for me. Definitely understand that 10K in a day does not work for some people. I did definitely get a hangover from my 10K day, but I think I recovered quickly and I just think it worked for me. All right, so my final thing that didn't work for me was, and bear with me here, the goal to write 50,000 words / get a completed manuscript during November. I know that's the whole point of NaNoWriMo. And first things first, I'm just not the type of person who can fit an entire story in 50,000 words. I was still in that process of learning how to constrain myself. There was a point in between hitting 50K and realizing I was burnt out that I thought I was gonna try and push through to get a completed manuscript, but I quickly backtracked from that goal just because it was not going to happen. As for the overall getting 50,000 words in a month goal, I have a lot to say. As I mentioned in the beginning of the video, I won NaNoWriMo on November 21st. I think about 2 days later, I stopped writing. I burnt out, plain and simple. There was something about aiming for that 50,000 word mark that as soon as I reached it, my brain was done. And I've been trying to dissect why this happened, and I have a lot of thoughts, but my main takeaway is that it was just such a huge departure from my normal writing process. It's never about the words. I'm not writing and getting excited over how many words I'm getting. It's about story progression. I found that by focusing on word count, I skipped all the scenes that felt tough to me. Anytime I was getting to a place where I thought, ooh, this might make me stop and have to think for a few days, I would just skip ahead to the next part of the novel that I had outlined out, and I just didn't give myself that time to ruminate and really think about my characters in the context of the story. When I got to the big emotional reveals and the twists, I just sort of became paralyzed because I realized I had no idea how my characters would really truly react in this situation. I know how my character at the beginning of Act 1 would react to this situation, but my character in Act 3 isn't that same person. She's gone through all these emotionally difficult events, and yet because I didn't write them, I don't know who she is in this moment. For example, I have a enemies to friends relationship in this story, and in one scene I have them being quite distrustful of each other, and then the next few chapters were a sticky part, so I just kind of did a brief outline, and then at the end of it they're suddenly quite a bit closer, and yet their closeness felt strange to me. It didn't feel real because I hadn't had them go through that sticky event act. I hadn't written that. So, long-winded explanation, I felt like I couldn't really continue writing my story because I was working with sort of cardboard characters. And again, I know this sounds super pretentious, but I'm just trying to get across why going for 50K was not the right choice for me, because it made me skip important character building scenes. And so what I'm left with right now is a draft that has a lot of forward movement, but not a lot of growth. I think that's a good way of phrasing it. I just decided to give myself a break, pat myself on the back for hitting 50K, but calling it early and saying my nano was done on November 23rd. And to end on a positive note, I'm claiming that that is the final thing that worked for me this NaNoWriMo, was knowing when to stop. Because I didn't push through, because I haven't forced myself to sit down and write about these characters, I have noticed in the past few days they've started to wiggle their way back into my mind as I've been thinking about other things, and I've even started writing down just a little bit of notes for myself when I begin my next draft. I'm actually super excited to get back to writing Helical Rising, but that is going to be put off until a later date, which I'll be discussing in another video, for my plans for 2020. But for December, I'm turning my attention back to an older project. I have my notes from my editor that I need to go over. Again, that will be a separate video. There are a lot of fun things I plan on doing this December, but the biggest one is enjoying the holidays with my family, of course, and I hope you guys are also having a great time now that the holiday season is in full swing. I hope this video of what worked and what didn't work for me might at least give you a little insight into how you might approach Nano next year. If your writing style seems similar to mine, maybe factor in what I've said. If it seems totally different, maybe factor in the opposite of what I've said. And again, this was just my first experience, and you really can't come to any major conclusions until you have multiple points of data. But for now, I hope you guys had a fantastic NaNoWriMo. Please let me know how it ended up for you. I would love to read about your successes. I hope you're doing great. I hope your writing is going even better and your holiday season is off to a fabulous start. Bye. My foot has fallen asleep. It's an emergency. Ooh, my leg is now... pins and needles, pins and needles. Oh my gosh, that doesn't feel so good, does it? Whew. Hi. Anyway.